Hey everyone, it's Blair here at Time Trades. Thanks for joining me this weekend. I want to kick things off with a review of some of the tweets I've sent out to see how they're faring. So right now we're looking at the Bitcoin chart on a daily time frame, and we've pasted in some of the tweets from the Time Trades account. And the first one was on December 31st of 2021. Where I shared the Bitcoin forecast for the next few weeks and made it clear that it was very bearish. Price on that day was around 46.8. Within about 5-6 days or so, price had dropped down to about 43 and change. And I tweeted out that so far that's aging well, and that 39,600 was the next target. And again, another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days later, we had a wick down to 39,558. So I've been pretty happy so far with the quality of these price and time forecasts on Bitcoin. I don't have I don't have my price levels in Time Trades at the moment. I may add that at some time in the future, but this is one of these things that I encourage everyone to combine Time Trade signals with their own price method. I've got my own price method, seems to be working okay, at least for Bitcoin. So far so good on this. We'll get into the Bitcoin future forecast a little bit later in the video this week. And the other trade I wanted to share with everyone is something I tweeted out on January 11th on Tesla. I took Tesla long that day. And of course, the next, like 8 bars, it did nothing but go sideways / down and burned my options premium. But it did end up popping, and I was able to get out before the big flush down on Friday. So this did turn into a small profit for me. My issues on this trade were not so much the timing or the forecast. It was mostly just strike selection and trade execution. So could have been a little bit more patient on this one. And achieved a better outcome, but I'm not complaining. I was able to get out with a small profit, so that's always good. All right, so those are the 2 big forecasts I wanted to cover. Let's drop into Time Trades now and take a look at what we're seeing going forward. Okay, so I want to cover, just go to the models page, and this is usually how I like to review things on a weekend and see what's setting up. I'll go to the models page, I'll click on the activity rating for the next 5 trading days, and we'll see what floats to the top here. By the way, one of the feature improvements that I will be doing to this models page is I'm going to be adding some improved filtering here so that you will have the ability to filter symbols down to just the exchanges that you trade. So for example, if you don't trade in India, then you can filter those out. All right, so what caught my eye here right away was XLF, the financial sector. And this is one of the most active in terms of forecasts, and you can see why here. This has a really nice setup. This is one of those strong grade A setups. We've got a cluster here of 2 standard deviation down moves starting January 20th, which is 18th is Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So January 20th is Thursday. That's when Time Trades thinks the fun is going to start in the world of financials. And then we've got like 5 straight trading days of fairly significant 2 standard deviation down days into a pivot low. So we've got a cluster of pivot lows here, the highest being about 33%. Now, I know the probabilities are not huge. Like I think the highest probability here is on January 25th, which is 45%. But the fact that we've got a cluster of these things, both 2 standard deviation down days and a cluster of pivot lows, gives me a lot of confidence. So this is very much a tradable setup in financials. So of course, there's such an important sector, such a big sector in the S&Ps. If this does indeed play out, it's going to be pulling the S&Ps lower for sure. So another stock that is near the top of the activity list is Citigroup, or C. So let's take a look at that and see if that is also confirming what we're seeing in the XLF in the financial sector. And yes, it is. January 19th, January 20th, we start to see some 2 standard deviation down moves peaking on January 24th. And that is also complemented by some pivot lows down here. Okay, so this is very much aligned with what we're seeing in the XLF. Another name that I've been trading off and on here with some success, I wouldn't say huge, is UNG. And UNG is notorious for being super volatile and not easy to trade. We had some success trading up in here. I got out a little early. I wasn't able to take advantage of this big green spike day. Prices come down, which is really nice. I hope it's going to come down into this little hollow here in the forecast up days, because we've got some nice 2 standard deviation up days, and that's combined with a pivot high on February 2nd. So might be worth another swing at UNG here to see if this can take effect. So we'll see what happens. Yeah, with a name this volatile and with such a reputation as UNG, make sure you keep an eye on your risk, keep an eye on your size. And if this forecast plays out, it may very well be a profitable trade for you. Okay, so let's take a quick look at indexes. Looking at the Dow and the spiders. The Dow is probably the cleanest forecast. We've seen this cluster of 2 standard deviation down days for a while now, and that's complemented by these pivot lows at the end of January. Again, this is very much a tradable setup. Love seeing these combinations, especially with the 2 standard deviation down moves, because 2 standard deviations are much more rare than the orange 1 standard deviation down move. So because they're more rare, they're also more accurate. Looks like the Dow is forecast to start moving down on the 19th. We can do a quick look at some of the other indexes as well. We've got spiders. So the spiders forecast is actually really quiet. I don't see anything here that's really tradable. Now that doesn't mean I'm not bearish on the spiders. I'm putting a lot of faith in the Dow forecast and believing that's going to extrapolate over to all the other indexes. Let's look at the Qs. Okay, so here's the QQQ index, and it does have the bearish moves down here, but relatively low probability. Nothing huge, 4%, 13%, 55% probability of a 1 standard deviation move on the 21st. That being said, okay, look at where we are with respect to the yellow and blue Gann waves, right? And this is one of the reasons why I added yellow and blue Gann waves to the user interface, so that you could use your own neural network to figure out what kind of pattern is happening. So we just completed this yellow period here, okay? And we're heading into this blue period, bracketed by black on either side. So when we look at what's happened the last few times, there's been a move down into blue and then a move up. in the case in late December, there was a move up into blue and then a move down. So there seems to be, if anything, when we look at the peak blue period, there seems to be a relatively bearish pattern here for the last 3-4 actually blue periods. We see bottoms appearing right around blue. In this case, in the most recent case, the bottom appeared a lot later. So I would not be surprised to see another bottom appearing around blue, or possibly even a little bit later here in QQQ. Now, whenever I look at indexes and I see some ambiguity or they're difficult to interpret, what I like to do is look at, of course, the biggest stocks. And Apple has had a very clear forecast for the last few weeks now, and with lots of 1 standard deviation down days. Even though it is pushed out a little bit into February, we see a huge pivot low here down in February and March. So Apple looks like it's about to get started on a significant bearish trend. And it may take a while to get going. It looks like we'll see the first wave down next week with peak down momentum January 25th, perhaps a little recovery the following week, but then things really get rolling into February. So this just lends confirmation to my bearish interpretation of the index forecasts. Okay, one more stock that I want to share with everyone. So a time trades user took this trade short and it turned out to be very profitable. So this is working out very well. The time trades user shorted up in 165 and was able to close down here. So it looks like there's a little bit more momentum to go on the downside for Nike, and I'd be surprised if it does not align with the broader bearish forecast for the next little bit. But one of the things that really catches my eye here is this giant cluster of pivot highs over here in April. And this is super strong, 93% probability of a pivot high on April 18th. So judging by the way things are shaking out here on Nike, you wouldn't be surprised to see a continuation of this down move with some sort of bottoming pattern in mid-February, and then we can see a corrective move back up starting in late March, peaking around April. So Nike's a very interesting name to follow. Okay, so let's wrap things up with a few cryptos. And I pulled these crypto names from the models page. These have the most activity in the near future. Okay, so Bitcoin, the forecast continues to play out here. Okay, and it's been pretty consistently bearish over the last few weeks since the end of December, and price has been in alignment with that forecast, so that's good. We may see a little bit of a recovery here into this kind of hollow area in the forecast, January 19th and 20th. But then we see increased probability of 1 standard deviation down move. So the way these 1 standard deviation down moves are calculated, it's 1 standard deviation over the last 5 trading days. Okay, so you can click on the info button up here and see exactly what that is. 1 standard deviation 5 days over the last 5 days is minus 8%. So that's not 8% down in one day, that's 8% down over the last 5 days. Okay, so comparing today's close with the one from 4 days prior, total of 5 trading days. Okay, so if you want to try to guesstimate a price target for this, you can take a look at January 21st, subtract 5 days from that. You get January 16th, price right around 45K, and subtract 8% from that. And that would be a reasonable guesstimate of what price could be on January 21st. Of course, we don't know exactly what the future is, and this is a big cluster of 1 standard deviation down days. Things might snowball down, but we did get a very strong bounce from that 39.6 level. Historically, that's a strong level. We can see it bounced again over here on September 22nd. So we may just bounce around a little bit with a bearish bias over the next few weeks. Again, there's nothing super bullish about Bitcoin until late February, early March, okay? We may see a low over here in this blue period, but personally, I won't be trading this until or at least trading this from the long side until we see late February, early March, and then we've got a strong probability of a pivot low. Okay, so that's Bitcoin. Let's take a look at ADA. Now, Cardano is another one of these active symbols. We've got a pretty good probability, 63% probability of a pivot high on January 17th, followed by a cluster of 1 standard deviation pivot lows. This is a reasonably good setup because we've got that cluster. Always love to see these combinations of pivots and moves together. So we can expect to see maybe a little bit more down pressure here in Cardano, and some positive price action as forecast starting in February, and then a pivot low in late February. So again, I think Cardano needs to spend some time basing here, establishing a foundation from which it can start to move up. And we can see it later in the year, April, we start to see some higher probabilities of moves up into pivot highs. And I'll close out today's call with Litecoin. Now, Litecoin is another one with a lot of activity over the next few days, mostly on the downside. And then we've got another batch of down pressure in February, but holy moly, look at what happened starting in March. Litecoin just goes into rocket mode. So that is something to keep in mind. And we'll see if maybe there's a bit of a crypto recovery with Bitcoin forecasting a pivot low in March, and Litecoin looking super bullish in March, April, and May. So yeah, this is one of the biggest clusters of forecast up pressure that I've seen in the system in the 2 years I've been doing this. So Litecoin looking good. Just be patient on it. Let this bottom play out. Don't chop up your account. And starting mid-March or so, it looks like a great time to enter. Okay, that's it for me. I hope you're all having a great weekend. I'm going to be watching the 49ers Cowboys game tomorrow. So I hope you're all enjoying your weekend. Monday is a holiday in the United States. So happy Martin Luther King Day, and we will be back trading on Tuesday. Thanks all. Bye now.